Okay, everyone. I'm just going to do a quick sound test because I don't want to be talking to myself. Let me just confirm that we're on. Everyone can hear good.
Google AI helps you find your best.
Bear with me just one sec, fellas. Okay. Bear with me just one. Yeah, looks like we're good. So, everyone, welcome to another Financial Freedom Friday hosted by the Side Hustle Society. In this one, we're going to be talking about YouTube in a very interesting way. So I've actually been thinking about how to do a show talking about YouTube earnings for a minute, but everyone just kind of does the same thing, and I don't want to be part of the charade of people just showing off earnings and not any real lesson. So something happened last year and even going into this year that I talked about earlier this year called invalid traffic. And it's going to play a role into what we're going to talk about today. But first thing is first, y'all see the title of the live stream, which is how I use YouTube AdSense revenue to make six figures in a year. YouTube earnings 2024. So I know that nothing is going to really matter until I show the money. So the first thing we're going to do is actually show the money, show the earnings. But we got to lay out some ground rules. So first things first, this isn't just going to be YouTube ad revenue, but the sources of income I'm going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about 2023. I'm not going to bring up these sources of income. So I'm not going to be counting any book sales from my book, The Anatomy of Financial Success, because there's too much local things that I do to generate book royalty sales. That's not really tied to YouTube, so I'm just not going to count it. I'm not going to count any kind of consultations, coaching, or course sales because all that, once again, has influences outside of YouTube that influences sales. In fact, a lot of y'all are going to say this isn't like my true earnings because things are omitted, but all this has to go back to YouTube in some form. That's why that's the only stuff we're going to be talking about. So I'm also not going to be including any digital product sales because same thing. There's the marketing that takes place outside of YouTube, like the email newsletter, telling people in person, referrals, stuff like that. So we're not going to include any of that. With that being said, let's go ahead and start going into the earnings for 2023 that shows the six figures that I'm talking about. So we're going to share the screen. See? And this would actually just go smoother if I just shared the entire window. Okay, so starting off with Airbnb. So this is the earnings for 2023. You can see it's a it's a $73,595.71. And the reason I'm counting Airbnb earnings as part of this spinoff from YouTube is because all the money, and I'm going to get into this later in the stream, but the money that started this Airbnb business actually came from the YouTube ad revenue. So that was the seed capital, if you will. So all the money that the Airbnb business or rental business makes has its foundations in the money that was paid off of YouTube. That's why Airbnb is going to be counted. Let's go to YouTube directly. So this is here on the Side Hustler Society channel for 2023 in terms of ad revenue. The money that was made was $648.46. So not nothing much to write home about, but it is something. Next, we're going to move on to the Financial Anatomy YouTube channel. And you see, obviously, it's significantly bigger. It's $13,942.21. A lot of y'all are thinking like, some of y'all are surprised because y'all think that Financial Anatomy was the first channel and the Side Hustle Society is the second one. No, it's flipped. The Side Hustle Society came first, and back when it was called the App Lifestyle. And when I made personal finance content on this channel, the audience didn't respond to it that well. I respected everyone's wishes, kept making like that kind of content on this channel, and moved all the personal finance content to Financial Anatomy. And that channel ended up getting significantly bigger than the Side Hustle Society, which is awesome. Next, we're going to go to a channel called The Rideshare Guy, which actually talks a lot about the gig economy too. I highly recommend it. Someone's texting me. I'll get back with them later. Highly recommend you check it out if you're into the gig economy. But I do some freelance work for them. I do some video editing for their Show Me the Money podcast, which is pull up their playlist real quick. Show Me the Money. Yeah, Show Me the Money Club right here. Yeah, so I'm behind the scenes working on that. And every now and then I actually do a video for them on their channel talking about some things. I believe there is a playlist that just has all my videos on it. Well, you can see me on the screen right there, Uber Eats, Deactivated. Let me see if I can find it might not maybe it's not there anymore, but yeah. Oh, I'm staring me in the face. Yeah. No. Don't actually watch the video. These YouTube. Sorry about that, y'all. Trying to figure out how to pull this up without actually playing the video. Just click on view playlist. Okay. But yeah, y'all see content from me, which I'm obviously paid for this content to do content on the Rideshare Guy. So the money I made from that in 2023, the $7,775. And when it comes to the rental game, ooh, let me fix something real quick, y'all. I forgot to plug in my charger. We don't want to have this turned off. Okay, crisis averted. Because this battery will run out and then it would have just shut down. That would have been cool. So next thing we're looking at, when it comes to the rental business, I am what I like to call a poacher. So if someone books on Airbnb, then they want to book again because they had a good experience next time they're in town. I'm going to give them a call. Hey, I have a coupon where I can give you a 10% discount. If we just do this off of Airbnb, that way I can give you a discount and I make more money because neither of us is paying a service fee. They take me up on that offer. So I do actually have some earnings outside of Airbnb that's included in the rental business. Some are off of Furnish Finder. Some of y'all that might be familiar with that. It's another platform that you can use to get tenants for people that need housing. So there's the earnings there. And then there's the money. Either I've received money via cash or check or PayPal, which the PayPal account I was using, they, for whatever reason, wiped all the transactions, but that total money is around $5,000. So that goes into the earnings part of the Financial Freedom Friday, because none of y'all are going to care anything I have to say until we actually show the earnings. So we did that. Now we can get into the storyline, if you will. Okay. So if you see me looking down, once again, I'm looking at my notes. Don't butcher me in the comments. Let me just get out of that. Stop sharing. There we go. Okay. So next, we're going to pull up the earnings for, I'm going to stick to Financial Anatomy because that's the bulk of where the ad revenue was coming from. Not that much really came from the Side Hustle Society. So I'm going to pull up the screen again and we're going to go to Financial Anatomy. And we're going to go back to 2021 because that is when I first started, for lack of a better word, laundering YouTube ad revenue and turning it into other ways of making money. We're going to go January 2021. Let's see what we got. Okay. So as y'all can tell, oh, by the way, this is the year when the Financial Anatomy got monetized. And we're going to pull up Airbnb and we're going to go to 2021 because towards the very end of 2021, that's when I got my first studio apartment. So it was put on Airbnb. Now, why is this important? Throughout my YouTube career, I've always heard this saying that you should never, ever, ever rely on YouTube ad revenue. People kept telling me, don't rely on ad revenue. Don't rely on ad revenue. Just don't do it. And that's cool and all when you're not really making it. But when the money starts actually rolling in, you can get kind of comfortable and actually start relying on it too much. So I decided to come up with a game plan to basically funnel this money into something that would give me a decent return, at least 4 times return, but preferably more. And to quote Robert Kiyosaki in one of his books, I think it was the cash flow quadrant, but it might have been before you quit your job. As an entrepreneur, you have to know how to spend money and to have that money come back with some more money friends. And if you're going to be in the B and I quadrant of the cash flow quadrant, that's a mandatory skill set that you have to have. And this is basically what I'm exercising. So it takes $4,000 to furnish a studio apartment. In 2021, that's when I took $4,000 from, as you can see, the YouTube ad revenue, which was higher than $4,000, obviously in 2021. And I started to put a game plan together to move that money into something outside of YouTube that would produce a pretty decent return. So we're going to move on to 2022. Let's see. Let's change these numbers to 2022. And we could do some quick math real quick, just so y'all can see how much that is monthly. We'll just turn in calculator. There we are. Then take that number, 23,500. We'll leave out the cents because it's not that relevant. And we're just going to divide this by 12, which is the number of months that's in a year. Because YouTube does have its ups and downs, right? And let's do that again. Let's take that out. Do 23,355. It's playing tricks on me. Then divide that by 12. And that gives you, $1,946 in terms of, hold on. I think I may be getting some feedback. Can y'all hear me pretty good? Say that it's fading in and out. Let me do a sound test real quick. Fading in and out. Let me do a sound test real quick. Well, I can hear it on my side, Sonny Bravo. Anyone else in the chat, please let me know if you're having any kind of audio issues. And we'll see what we can do. But yeah. Let me know if it's fixing itself, Sonny Bravo. It's still messed up? Oh, let me do another test real quick to see if yeah. Keep me posted. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going, but in and out. Yeah. Keep me posted. Yeah, the audio is coming through fine on my side, but let me know if it continues, and I'll see if I can reboot the system or something. But yeah, going back to the calculator. So on a monthly basis, just as an average, this is $1,946 in 2022. And we go to the Airbnb earnings, which is back out of that. We'll go to 2022. And y'all start to see that the investment is starting to pay off. In 2022, I actually got another studio apartment. That cost $4,000, like I said. And it came from the YouTube AdSense revenue. Okay. So now I have 2 apartments. One is generating money. The other one is starting to generate money too. And yeah, he's saying there's something wrong with the sound. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure like what's going on, Sonny Bravo. Let me run another test real quick. Let me pull up the stream on the show and see like if it's working like that. Because I definitely want y'all to be able to hear me. Let's pull up the show. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And I gotta skip my own ad. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. It sounds like it's coming through. Everyone in the chat, let me know if you can hear me. And is it messing up or what? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and keep going. But Sonny Bravo, can you test to see if it's maybe your phone or the computer or something? But yeah, so going back to the 2022. So I have 2 studio apartments, and you can see the money that's being made from the investment pretty much, which is in total for the year 2022 is $49,436.83. And this is just off of 2 studio apartments. So I'm taking this money that's off of YouTube and funneling it into something that's more what makes more money, but it's also more stable because YouTube ad revenue can be kind of erratic. So we're going to fast forward to 2023. And this is where the interesting part of the story begins. So you notice a dip in the earnings between 2022 and 2023 on YouTube. And that's not by mistake. That is when my channel, Financial Anatomy, that is, got hit with what's known as a YouTube like ad revenue glitch or invalid traffic glitch. To give context, I'm going to type this in on YouTube traffic glitch, and you can see how many people were being affected by this. Okay, Sonny Bravo, you said when you put the earphones in, it's working. Cool. No problem. We always want to make sure that everyone can hear. So thanks for pointing it out. Even if it's something on your end, don't feel bad about it. Let me know about it. So look at this. YouTube invalid traffic glitch. We're not gonna watch these because I don't want to get copyrighted, but invalid traffic glitch. I found the fix to my YouTube invalid traffic bug. That's another thing. A lot of people are finding temporary fixes, and then it would time out, and then like a week later, they would have this same glitch again. YouTube invalid traffic glitch killed our channel. Invalid traffic glitch is destroying my YouTube channel. Will quit after 12 years on YouTube. Oh gosh, it's brutal. Yeah, my YouTube invalid traffic ban, how I got it fixed. And y'all have noticed the time frame is pretty similar. About a year ago or a few months ago. And yeah, my channel in 2023, towards the end, like in December, started getting hit with this invalid traffic. So why does that matter? Like Elijah, how does that work? So on YouTube, they have something called an RPM rate. And the RPM rate is how much a YouTuber gets paid per 1,000 views. And your RPM rate is determined by what kind of content you're making. So if you make like video gaming content, you're attracting an audience with a certain amount of money, or if we're being honest, lack thereof. So the ads they're going to be showing are sold at a very, very low rate. And how much you're getting paid as a conduit for these ads to run reflects that. Meanwhile, if you're like in the real estate or personal finance niche like me, the ads that run are people that usually like real estate courses, like wedding ring companies, because someone who's interested in buying a house, a lot of new couples are buying a new house, and this company that's selling wedding rings is advertising, on my channel, and they're willing to pay a lot of money to get in front of that person so that they'll buy this, expensive wedding ring, and then they make their return back. So my channel is in a very high paying RPM rate. But the thing with this invalid traffic thing is there's invalid traffic glitch is basically flagging channels because they think that bots are spamming views on your channel, which in turn is causing the advertisers to pay for views that they're not making money off of. So YouTube's response is to limit the ads on the channels that have been hit by this quote unquote invalid traffic. And they're assuming that invalid traffic actually could be a thing. Maybe my channel was hit with invalid traffic. I don't really have any way of determining it. I don't think it was, but whether it was or not, my RPM rate went from like $25 to like $7. So I want y'all to think about that for a sec. So I went from $25 per 1,000 views, and then you can see the amount of views like right here, to like $7 per 1,000 views. Do you see how that will make a big difference in the money that's being made? So in 2023, I actually did get a third apartment on Airbnb, a third studio apartment. Once again, it costs $4,000 to furnish the studio apartment. And we go back to 2023 on Airbnb. Let's back out of this. Go 2023. And this brings us to this, $73,595.71. So despite YouTube actually decreasing in terms of money, since I'd already funneled money into another more productive and manageable source, and to be honest, the Airbnb real estate thing does have a learning curve. It's not like the amount of money I made was immediately like a bunch of money. I still have to learn how to do it. Learn about Airbnb. Learn about interior design for these studio apartments. Learn how to offer certain amenities to attract the type of people that I want in there. So it's another business that required a learning curve. But all the variables I just told you, all that is in my control. One thing I can't control is how much YouTube is willing to pay per 1,000 views in terms of that ad revenue. So what ended up happening was, when this happened, I know people who their world was like destroyed, their financial world, because they were so reliant on this ad revenue. Okay. And I was annoyed. I'm glad I was annoyed, but I had the luxury of being annoyed because I was making money from the other places that I showed y'all at the beginning of the stream. Let's go to 2024 on YouTube. This is real interesting. 2024 on YouTube. Now, y'all see that number decreased by like 8,000, right? Like, this is how much ad revenue that I've made in 2024. In fact, the statistics is actually chiming in. Look at this: 60% less than this time frame. And for most of this year, my channel was affected by the invalid traffic. And to be honest, since that was the case, I started focusing on other things. Like I got more clients when it came to the video editing or freelance services I offer. I got more consulting clients. The money from Airbnb is still rolling in, which if y'all want to actually learn how the details of how I got the whole rental or the rental business or Airbnb business off the ground, you can click on the card, and the card will be put after the stream in the right-hand corner. It actually shows you another Financial Freedom Friday where I show you basically how I launched the Airbnb business, how it's run, and I had a big Q&A at the end. So if you're curious, well, how does that Airbnb/rental business work? Check that Financial Freedom Friday out. It wasn't the last one we did, but the one before that. So yeah, y'all probably noticed that this year I was uploading less too, because less views, less money. It just got less of my attention. You can actually look at the views and you can see that they've decreased. And on YouTube, if you're not uploading, your channel will quote unquote suffer. But the point is, it kind of served its purpose already. I made the money that focused on being a seed capital for something else and got a much, much bigger return on it. So I basically we do the math, 3 studio apartments. So they each cost $4,000 to furnish. So that's $12,000. I've taken that $12,000 and turned it into what y'all see here. Now, this is just 2023. We're not even including the 2022 and 2021 earnings. I'm not adding all that up. I mean, y'all could do that. But you can see that it got a much bigger return off of that money. So what's the lesson in all this? The lesson is it's a YouTube ad revenue really needs to serve as a financer to get something else off the ground. I also didn't cover, the other stuff like not all their ad revenue went to the Airbnb business. Some of it went to marketing for my own digital products. Some of it went to marketing for, my book. So it did go in other places that have their own returns, but we're really focusing on one thing here so I can drill this home. If you're going to do quote unquote YouTube, all the money that you make from ad revenue, whatever it is, you can make $100 per month. You really should be finding a way to funnel it into something else. And the stereotypical thing that YouTubers do is they make money off of YouTube and they take that money and they invest it in either real estate or stocks. And a lot of people really investing in real estate. So I'm not actually doing something extremely eccentric. I'm just following the formula. So I went from taking the money from YouTube and then going into the and then taking that money and going into the real estate. So let me actually turn the sharing off. That way we can, there we go. Because for the moment, we're just sharing on the screen. But yeah, essentially, that's my quote unquote journey with this whole how I was able to make six figures annually using YouTube ad revenue, as opposed to making six figures from YouTube. I mean, keep in mind that if I made six figures from YouTube ad revenue, I definitely wouldn't be complaining. I would not be complaining like in the slightest. Okay. But it's important to funnel that money into something that you have control over. Because if I was just relying on the ad revenue, oh man, I would have been like losing my shit like a bunch of other people. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna actually open the call lines up, and I'm gonna drop the link right here. Hold on. And if y'all have any questions, y'all can go ahead and drop them in the chat. Or you can join the show. I just posted the link in the chat. And while we're waiting for some people to drop some questions or hop on the show, I actually have something fun for y'all. So I'm actually going to pull up my very first YouTube video that I appeared on screen. And I'm going to react to it live because I've come a long way from my first video, right? And I haven't seen this in years. So I'm going to be seeing exactly how far I've come. Y'all can too. And kind of calling out like some improvements that I could have made back then. Well, obviously made them, but it's important to see people's humble beginnings. Y'all see the person becomes. Y'all don't see where they started. Let me work on getting that video up. And if anyone wants to join the show or if they want to ask a question in the chat, they are free to do so. I'm just surfing through the videos so I can pull that up. StreamYard has changed some things, so I can't just share it like I would have been able to before. Let's see, download this. And it's almost downloaded. The YouTube video is 10 tips on how to be a better rideshare driver, if I remember right. Let's see what we got. So where are you? What's poppin', y'all? This is Elijah here, and let me be the first to welcome you to the UberLifestyle.com. There are many questions surrounding Uber in general. Okay, right off the bat, I can say this right now. I'm way too stiff. And not to say that I'm the most free-flowing person now, but I think I've gotten better. I look stiff as hell. How do you be an Uber driver? How do you be an Uber passenger? How do you pick up people? How do you accept a ride? How do you request a ride? All kinds of questions. Think of this as your one-stop shop to get all the questions you need answered, as well as staying up to date on various techniques and information you can use to be successful with Uber, no matter what you're trying to do. In this video, we're going to be covering a pretty pressing topic because a lot of people sign up to drive. Okay. Sonny Bravo, you say you're coming on shortly. Cool. Yeah, when you hop on, we could definitely chop it up. I will say this. Back then, I actually had a more extensive set. So this was before the days of like the bookcase. So I used to have a green screen that had something that the green screen would hang on, and I had the clamps that you had to use to keep it up. And once the footage was shot, I would go in Adobe After Effects and the video editing and make this stuff work. And you know what? I think for an amateur back then, I did a pretty good job. It does look a little flat by like my standards today, but given what I was working with, I think I did pretty good. So there's some positive praise too. One thing I'm doing is crossing my arms. I'm glad I got out of the habit of that. That's not, no, it makes you look uncomfortable. For Uber, but don't actually accept their first ride until like those of y'all that are joining right now, I'm actually reacting to my first video I ever appeared on ever on the Side Hustle Society. So 3 weeks later, you wonder why is that? It's really the unknown. So in this video, I'm going to cover 10 things that new rideshare drivers should do before they even hit the road, and maybe even in the first trips of hitting their road. That way it gives a learning curve, a much smoother process, and everything remains stress-free, and you can earn that money. Okay, I was using a song that I don't know if it would get copyrighted, so I'm just gonna have to say fair use, just so I don't get copyrighted. So fair use, fair use, fair use. Let's continue. Number one, this should go without saying, but take a ride as a passenger. I mean, Uber is a great service, it's very convenient. Why not take advantage of it yourself? Especially if you live in a city where the parking is just trash. Not saying any major cities, by the way. But seriously, take a ride as a passenger. Everything has two sides to it, the driver and the passenger side. So experience that passenger side. See how it actually is to request a ride when you get in the car, visually see everything on the app. Then you can kind of get a passenger's perspective as far as what they like and what they don't like, and you can adjust your driver experience based on that situation. As an Uber passenger, you gotta admit, there's nothing more annoying than telling that your Uber driver has never been a passenger before. You can tell. Yeah, I think I kept my arms crossed the entire time. That is really bugging me now because it makes me seem uncomfortable. Well, to be fair, I was uncomfortable. First experience on camera. But for those of y'all that are watching, take that feedback and just keep that in mind when you do appear on camera at first. Crossing your arms is going to make you seem uncomfortable. You don't want to seem uncomfortable on camera, even if you are starting out. Trust me, when you've been around the block for a little while, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Number two, make sure you set your navigation before you take your first trip and get on the road. This gets me all the time. But when I take Uber as a passenger, I am shocked to see that they are using the Uber navigation system. Whatever you do, don't use that system. Passengers don't like it. After driving for a little while, you're not going to like it either. Just go to the settings and change it to a third-party app. The most popular apps out there are Waze and Google Maps. We actually have a full article where we explain the benefits and the pros and cons of Google Maps and Waze. Hey, Sonny Bravo, I see you in the back room. Are you ready to come on? Okay, when you're ready to come on, just give me like a thumbs up. Then I'll bring you on. As well as how to change your settings. Just make sure you do. Both you and your passenger will greatly appreciate it. Number three, make sure you have some kind of mile tracker app. A lot of people get involved in this rideshare thing. They're like, okay, you got the thumbs up. All right, we can bring you on because I'm not gonna watch the whole thing. I just want y'all to see that you got to start somewhere. The important thing is to Nike this shit. Too many people overthink this stuff and they never do it. Get on camera. No, you'll look awkward at first, but you'll get better. Just make sure you get 1% better every video, and you'll get the ropes. Let's see. Let's take that off. Oops.
What up? What up?
Yo. What's up, Sonny Bravo?
Oh, nothing much, man. Getting ready to get out on the grind as we speak. That's what took me a little while to get on.
Okay. Dude, what's the grind looking like right now? What you about to go do?
Oh man, I got to get on my little travel company hustle, deal with the tourists and the event people and all out and about in the city. About to hit the road tonight after that and go hit this event in Oregon. So just city to city grind in the wintertime, man. Some sunny days is money days, and you got to go out in the wintertime to go get the pay.
Right,
Got to
right.
grind extra hard.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
yeah, man, I like that first video you did. Actually, it wasn't to me. It wasn't bad at all. I like the background music, the Grand Theft Auto look. I like the vibe of it. Look kind of fun.
Yeah, and that's what it's going for, the Grand Theft Auto vibe. Like, honestly, Grand Theft Auto is a pretty cool game. It kind of shaped like what I wanted to do growing up. Not what I mean by that is I like the way that
Oh, you wanted
the
to be a robber and a killer? No, play.
no. You putting words in my mouth. For the record, I ain't say that. But no, the way that whoever you're playing as, my favorite person to play as was CJ from San Andreas. They essentially didn't have jobs. They just went around handling business. CJ in particular, like his storyline wasn't being a complete psychopath. He actually started like a lot of businesses and got them up and running, and he did some janky stuff to get it up and running. But when it was up and running, he was just making money off his businesses and getting stuff done and networking and making relationships happen. So it's like
Yeah,
take
I mean,
out the
ultimately, I was gonna
oh,
say ultimately, it's just a street entrepreneur, really, just changing it into the mainstream world.
right. Yeah, so if you take out the robbing and the dumb like criminal stuff, it's like you know what? A lot of entrepreneurs have a lot in common with Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, man, for real, literally. Some of the smartest people you ever meet is involved in those type of lifestyle activities. Believe it or not.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on well, I guess overall, I know you heard part of it, because they're having audio issues, but yeah, what do you think about the whole thing that I talked about, like how this invalid traffic really played a big role in like making less money, but it wasn't that big a deal because I handled it right.
Well, in any business, I think you have to be crafty and be a problem solver. So, as long as you're able to analyze the problem and then figure out the solution and find creative ways to solve it. I mean, as entrepreneurs, that's pretty much what we do. And as a YouTuber, you're ultimately seeking to become an entrepreneur because, the revenue just comes from the ads that run on your videos. And it's just another revenue stream, just like anything else. You just happen to be making videos to get the revenue stream.
Right, right.
Just a little bit
Yeah,
more of a convoluted process than a straightforward go clock in and get a check. It's just more steps to it. You got to kind of sort through and figure out the details of.
right, right. That's true. And speaking of YouTube, you got a channel yourself. You want to shout it out?
Well, I'm revamping my YouTube career at the moment, so I don't know if I'm even going to keep the Sonny Bravo channel. And I'm working on some concepts behind the scenes for multiple channels. One is like a 4K city tour, bike riding tour channel. So where I'm basically gonna ride around on 30-hour long, 2 hour long bike rides and kind of bring people along for me, kind of like a live day in the life type of thing. And I'm
Mhm.
also working on the channel that I don't have an official name for, but I have a, I guess, rough draft name called Smarter Travel in Seattle, where I go around different hidden gems in the city and kind of bring you along with me and maybe introduce you to the owners of the businesses and, what's unique about these places. Basically, I got the idea from, my business being involved with tourists and concert goers and event goers, and they just ask you certain questions. Oh, what's the best bar to go to? What's something interesting to see in the city? Blah, blah, blah. So the channel is kind of like a fun way to answer a lot of those questions. At the same time, go out and explore and enjoy things myself, even things that I haven't been to yet or seen. So we kind of discovering things together.
Mhm. Right. I imagine when you get that off the ground, like maybe you'll make a 2 or 3 minute video on your Sonny Bravo channel, like saying like basically what it is, and hey, if y'all are interested, come subscribe to me over there for the content.
Possibly. See, the thing with my Sonny Bravo channel is, to a degree, I kind of feel like, and because as you know, I've had some videos that really popped. I had one video that has almost 400,000 views, even though I got everything private right now. But I might make some of those live again. But I've had quite a few videos that got like 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000 views, but there was never any consistency, and I couldn't figure out why, as far as what my audience wanted to watch consistently from me. So there's just different pieces to the puzzle that you kind of really got to put together as a content creator. So I just kind of disappeared, and I've been studying behind the scenes, learning SEO, learning marketing, learning branding, learning storytelling, how to present the content in a way that would be digestible, that people will want to see, and also matching that with my interests and trying to figure out, okay, what things in my interest align with what people also want to see and how to present that. So I've just been kind of revamping over this last year or two, still chopping it up with some of my friends behind the scenes that are involved with YouTube. Um, guys like O'Shea. I tap in with different people from time to time, but
Mhm.
I've just been re-strategizing, learning, improving myself behind the scenes, and just experimenting with multiple channel concepts that I'm about to launch. Now TikTok, I've gotten pretty good at. I've launched multiple successful TikToks pretty quickly, but I don't know, man. Some of the things I was speaking about on my channel, I just kind of burnt out with, talking about the baby mama issues and the child support system and all that stuff. It's so many people in the red pill talking about that stuff, and I think about more things than that. I'm a pretty deep thinker, so I've been
Mhm.
self-employed at least on and off since I was 23. I'm 37 now. Um, I've always had a side hustle. I've always made my own money, whether I have a job or not. I've been self-employed for quite a while, full time now. But so I have a lot of other interests outside of just manosphere topics and things like that. So just working on how I can expand my horizons in a way that's marketable, that interests me.
Yeah. I am kind of curious. Are you a little worried about TikTok? Like, because there's all this talk about like it might get banned in the U.S. and all that stuff. But surprisingly, I remember Trump saying that he actually is not looking to enforce that. But I don't know. It's coming down to Do you have thoughts on that? Or are you worried about that, or not
The way
really?
I look at America is like a big company. So my thing is, how would it impact America financially to ban a bunch of content creators from a whole TikTok platform? How much money is that going to lose in the economy? How pissed off are people going to be about that? Who's going to lose political offices behind that? Because that's going to mess up a lot of people's income sources. But the thing about that is, I always say never put your eggs in one basket. It's like having a job. You can always get fired, or just having one type of hustle. You know,
Mhm.
if a pandemic hit or something slow down and you ain't got no money saved, you ain't got no stocks, you ain't got no rainy day fund or backup plan, you're screwed. So you can't have your eggs in one basket. So I would never just solely depend on TikTok, especially because TikTok don't even really pay for video views like that. You got to really capitalize on the people who are viewing your content.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I would put stuff on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook video, um, Rumble at this point. A lot of various platforms. If you could figure out how to effectively reach people on those platforms and get them engaged, I will rock out with all of them and then get that funnel, collect those emails, collect them, phone numbers if you can, as much information as you can get about your core audience. So that way you could tap in with them. So let's say if they, X is a good thing now. They got Twitter spaces. Um, so that way, if you got a strong core fan base, maybe you could launch your own platform at some point if you got a lot of people really rocking with you and they really want to tune in to what you got to say, and you getting kicked off of all these platforms because these people want to censor. You got a lot more control that way, so you don't want to put yourself in a situation to where you're just shit out of luck if one of these flimsy organizations decide that a politician told them that they got to crack down on people on the censorship tip, and now you're screwed. You know, your livelihood ain't coming in no more. And also stack while you're hot. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
That kind of mirrors like what we talked about in the show, which is not relying on YouTube AdSense revenue. And in your case, you're talking about TikTok, but that concept is still the same. So, let's say TikTok does get banned. It's not like they're the only, platform like that in town. If you uploaded your content in the other places, then you'll benefit from those too. And ultimately, like you said, get them off the platform, get them on an email list, and you'll own that relationship with your audience, as opposed to it being held for ransom by these platforms.
Yep, and I would say also learn and develop skills always, or as much as possible, and develop means of income outside of online as well. You know, like how you have your Airbnbs, or like how I have multiple seasonal business. You know, I also have an ice cream truck business that I do in the summertime as well. So just try to get multiple things going that you can scale. You know, eventually maybe hire people if that's your lane. If that's not your lane, shoot, get stocks, bonds. Maybe look into some type of I got a good friend of mine who does pocket options for an hour, and literally in 5 minutes I'll sit there and watch him make $300 to $500. Just, I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. Transfer the money over right there into his Cash App. I'm like, bruh, I'm like, what? So yeah, you gotta diversify, you know, so you can't
Yeah,
get
it's kind of like
canceled out in these YouTube streets.
YouTube streets. I like it.
These YouTube streets, you know, as they say.
Right. For anyone that's listening, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll pull them up and answer them. Or if you want to come on the show, I dropped the link where you can click that link and you can join us on the show. Yeah. So, Sonny, I would have asked, do you have any questions that you want to hit me with while you're on the show? Really about anything?
So I didn't get the whole show, so I want to get an overall view of generally what you're talking about outside of just the how they were messing with people on YouTube and their revenue.
Okay. So yeah, essentially the summary is I heard that YouTube ad revenue from all the YouTube gurus like Roberto Blake, Nick Nimmons, really everyone that you shouldn't rely on YouTube ad revenue. And I heard this before my second channel was even monetized. So I really took that advice. So when I started making the money, I'm like, okay, well, the money is cool, but what can I really do to take this money and flip it and make more money? Which is, I think that's probably the biggest job of an entrepreneur is to do that. Because let's say if this source was to get cut off at some point, which there's no reason it couldn't get cut off, like what would I do? Well, if I'd already took that money and invested it somewhere else and got a decent return, it wouldn't be such a big deal. So that's exactly what I did. Hence the Airbnb business that I used for an example. Now it did go in other places too, but the main one was the Airbnb business, and that's what generated the biggest return.
You there?
And it's still today. Are you still there?
I'm still online.
Yeah, you're still
Elijah,
online.
let me know when you get back.
And we're still on.
Oh, okay, it went out on my end. I just saw your screen was black.
Did you catch what I said?
No, it blacked out for like maybe 30 seconds.
Okay. I was saying that AdSense revenue is unreliable for a number of reasons. So what could I funnel this money in that would generate a big return? And I chose Airbnb. Uh-oh, now you blacked out. Can you still hear me? Well, while he's coming back, essentially, yeah, that's why I don't endorse relying on YouTube ad revenue. I kind of see it as an advertising budget. That's great. See, ad revenue.
Sorry, man. sorry, my son just got out of school. He called me. I'm on the phone doing this right now. I'm doing like I always do, just a million things at the same time.
Okay. Well,
God
I
bless.
was saying the show is about how to take the YouTube AdSense revenue, what I did, and funnel it into something else to give you a return. And I chose Airbnb, which generated a pretty big return over if I was doing the math, definitely over 4 times.
Now, how do you feel about, because we talk behind the scenes, and I remember you were telling me about Airbnb and certain things that city regulations they're coming out with. Because my whole concern about Airbnb, because I've dabbled a little bit in that world, not nearly as deep as you at all, but my whole concern is that they would eventually create regulations in order to decrease the level of competition for the major hotels chains, because I'm sure that takes some revenue away from them. So, what's your experience with that, and what would you say for that? What would you say for someone just coming into it? Do you think that the level of competition isn't already too stiff for someone to just break into that right now? Or is it like based on location, or what do you think?
It's based on location, so you gotta do some market research. But the first thing I would do before I do anything, I would Google like your city and then short-term rental regulations. And that'll pop up all the information on if there are regulations or if there's currently like a short-term rental ban that's trying to happen. And that'll kind of inform you on if you should move forward. If there are regulations, see what they are, see what it requires you to get in order to operate, and see if they have a hot tax. A hot tax is the same thing that hotels pay, where they want a percentage of your gross revenue every single month, which is bullshit if you ask me. But let me just digress.
It is. It is. That's how it goes a lot of the time in different businesses. So, what would you say? Okay, so for example, I used alternatives to Airbnb because, unbeknownst to me, I had like an 8-year-old warrant just for driving on suspended. This 8-year-old misdemeanor warrant that I wasn't even aware of until like I got pulled over randomly, and this cop told me, "Hey, you got a warrant in the county over," and they didn't even arrest me for it because it's just like a driving thing that's like so old I didn't even know about it. And
Mm.
so because for years with these rideshare apps and all these different things like this, they pretty much have the same application process, and they'll actually deny you. Um, Based on something like that just popping up on your background without you even knowing why. For example, I tried to put a product on I tried to put a place that I had in Arizona on Airbnb, and I was on there for a little while. Before I got my first customers, they literally kicked me off and didn't even give me a good explanation of why. Kind of like how they'll do with like YouTube channels, or whatever platform you're on. When they cancel you, they'll give you this vague general thing saying you're booted off, or you're not going to be able to get revenue anymore, but they won't give you a real reason why or a way to fight against it. What would you recommend for people in that situation to where they have to use, I guess, alternative ways or alternative platforms to do something like that?
Now, we strictly still talking about rentals and the Airbnb, or we talking about just in general?
Rentals specifically.
Okay, so first let's dive into what you said about the whole these companies use the same process. Most of them use a company called Checker,
Yeah.
and Checker is the rideshare guys did a great video on this, but they don't have the best reputation for being thorough, accurate, and a lot of times they actually make mistakes. So I would actually look into checking in with Checker because they have to give you, if they're using Checker as a background check, as long as the address is on file, they have to let you know why you were denied or whatever. Like most of the time, this ends up in the trash. You're like, what is this? Like, then it ends up in the trash. Don't throw it away. Actually, read it. Hear what they have to say, and if it's something you're like, wait, either this should have been taken off because it's the statute of limitations, or it's not true, you need to reach out to Checker and say, hey, this is not true. I'm disputing this. Like, show proof that this was true. Then they will have to go a step further to actually determine if it's true, but they won't do it unless you make them. And if it's determined that, oh, this isn't true, they'll actually remove that from the report, and you can actually get back on these platforms. This happened to several Uber and Lyft drivers where they were deactivated based off of false pretenses because of just some random stuff happening. And I'm not saying like they never got on the platform, like they were on the platform and they were driving fine.
And they'll kick you off. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
had that happen. And because they give you these vague generalities for answers. And it's like, for me, I got to make my money right now. So I don't got time to jump through all these hoops and contact all these people and do all this. Like, and that's why I've never been in the corporate world consistently like that. Like, I've always just had my own thing going that I'm completely in sole control of, because
Mhm.
these things at the drop of a dime, the drop of a hat can just drop you. Like, I used to do DoorDash back in the day,
Mhm.
and I did it consistently on and off for years. And randomly, I just pulled up the app one time after not using it for about a year, and wanted to do it, and found out they had kicked me off.
Mhm.
Had a good rating, had never had any problems, just out of nowhere. So it's just so unsustainable, unreliable, and it just there really should be someone who, or at least a straightforward process to deal with these type of things without all this convoluted madness. Because it's kind of like, I look at these companies like it's just F you, pay me. Like as long as they're reaching their bottom line, they don't care about the people who are contracting with them or the customers for that matter.
Mhm.
That's just it.
Yeah, honestly, what I say to that, as time goes on, because the industry compared to other industries is still relatively new. I'll call it, well, I guess the gig economy. I guess I'll just call all of
Yeah.
this. And with that being the case, I do think that laws eventually will get introduced that will force a level of transparency of all these companies that they'll have to follow. So that if you do get kicked off, they have to tell you why, and there's a more streamlined process on how to reverse it if it's reversible. And this is already happening on a local level. Some places, I forgot where, but there's a city in America that they have a different process for if you get deactivated on a gig app like Uber or Lyft. You have to, I think it's a form of arbitration where essentially an office is set up and they have to hear both sides and decide whether this qualifies for deactivation or not. This name of the city, it just escapes me. I don't know why. I know at least one city has done that here in America.
Mhm.
And I do see more local governments following, but eventually it will be done on a federal level, and that would change the game. Now, when that's going to happen, the industry's so new. So I wouldn't bank on it happening probably for another 5 to 10 years, to be honest.
It should be like that, because that's messing with people's livelihoods. Like, I know people who do Instacart. And I remember back in, we spoke about this. I remember back in like 2020, Instacart was booming. It was new. People were getting good money running these orders and stuff. And now that they have so many people on the app that are willing to work for them, and this is a pattern with a lot of companies that I've noticed. They'll lower the pay to just the most minuscule pay for the most ridiculous things, and then they'll dock you if you don't take a certain amount of orders. Or really, what it comes down to is if you're not going to take some sucker order, like,
Mhm.
you know, this is an exaggerated example, but 20 miles away, picking up 50 items for $10. It's just like, who in their right mind would do something like that? You're going to spend like an hour plus completing this, you know what I mean, making below minimum wage, but this is legal. And they can do it because there's a supply and demand issue. You got, you know, migrants that are willing to do this work. You got crackheads that just want to get their next hit, that'll just go run and do it real quick.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or tweakers now. I mean, you got the spinos, I call them, the people on the fentanyl. They walk around bent with their spine bent over with a broken spine,
Oh,
call them spinos. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got these people out here that's just willing to work for peanuts, driving the price down.
yeah. And honestly, I would be open to this because, like, I honestly see it like this: there's the business owner, then there's an employee, and like the in between for the longest time was an independent contractor or a freelancer. And that's still the case, but I think nowadays people are confusing these gig apps as being in between too. Like, oh, well, y'all are independent contractors because we say so, pretty much. When in reality, if you sit down and think about it, not employees either, to be honest. they're dependent contractors. So that's closer to an
Man,
employee. It's like in
damn.
between a freelancer and employee. And I think a new category should be made called dependent contractors, where it takes some from employees and some from freelancing, because ultimately that's what I see it as.
It's the worst of both worlds.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
Like I know people who, when things slow down in the wintertime and they're struggling on one of these gig apps, I tell them, man, you might as well go get a fucking job. Like you make more work, you make more with a minimum wage job. Go get you 2 jobs to during your slow time until you get back on your hustle or whatever, stack up real quick. I mean, literally, you're gonna make more. Just go and get you a minimum wage job.
Yeah, go. Literally, if you compare the quote unquote wages at McDonald's to what you would have to take during the slow season at some of these gig apps, the McDonald's would actually pay more.
Definitely. I mean, I'm in Seattle, man. The McDonald's is paying like $22 an hour. You know, which it sounds like like maybe 10 years ago that sounded good, but an apartment
Inflation
here
hit
is
it.
$3,000, 3,500. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it sounds all right until you realize how much you gotta pay and how much you gotta spend to live, and gas is $4.50, and I mean, it sounds cool and everything, but yeah, the minimum wage really, man. I feel like the minimum wage in this country should be at least $30 an hour, at
You're
least.
not you're not gonna really get any arguments from me, um, because it's not like they're gonna solve the ultimate problem of inflation. The only real band-aid is to keep increasing the wages along with it. But businesses, they don't want to do that because they still want to remain profitable. So it's like,
That's the problem. At a certain point, you can't remain possible profitable and also keep increasing the wages to keep up with inflation.
mhm. Yeah, and I kind of feel like, well, I don't like to rely on the government for anything, but I feel like it's a government problem that only they can really solve, because they're not getting giving the right incentives to the people in the positions to make the changes that would have the ripple effects of solving some of this problem. Like, rent is constantly going up, right? Well,
Mhm.
the government could make some tax benefits to offering low rent if you had a certain amount of profit of properties or whatever, and maybe that would incentivize landlords to lower rent. Rent is more affordable, then they wouldn't necessarily have to increase the wages of that state. That's just an example. But
Well, so I look at there has to be a certain balanced approach with certain things. For example, um, God, I wish I remembered the details, but basically, housing pricing has been inflated, synthetically inflated. There's groups of property owning companies that have been synthetically inflating the housing prices through the roof, and
mhm,
that there should be some regulation on that. That shouldn't be legal. Um, but the problem is there's these certain sectors within the economy that just don't have any type of guardrails. So they're just, it's like, fuck you, pay me again. They could just do whatever and you just got to figure it out. There's certain people, there's people living, 3, 4 relatives to a house or whatever. And I think that's really what it's going to come down to for a lot of people who aren't self-employed, who aren't entrepreneurial. Man, it's really I don't really like this guy at this point, but Andrew Tate said it. It's the have-nots and the have-yachts. It's really becoming more and more like that's the case. Like you got to become a have-yacht.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you got to pick your side. It's either the extreme poor, or I'm not going to say rich, because that's not necessarily true, but I'll just say affluent. Either you're going to be poor or affluent. Yeah, Andrew Tate clearly has some problems, but that is a statement he said that it is aged pretty well.
Part-time nigga. That's my problem with him. He part-time black and part-time whack. But but um, yeah, man. It's like you gotta pick, you gotta figure out how to go in the upward mobility direction, or you're gonna get left behind, man. I've been seeing this inflation going crazy. Um, and just in my mind, sometimes I sit and think, man, thank God I just figured out how to be self-employed and self-sustainable, because if I had to to one of these fucking shitty jobs with some dickhead telling me what the fuck to do that I want to smack the fuck out of every day, and have a limited wage that's low to where I can just afford to put gas in my car, pay the bills, and get to work and go home on this hamster wheel, bro, I would lose my, I'd be a criminal again. I ain't gonna lie to you. I used to get in a little trouble when I was in my early, 18, 19 or whatever, just because I had no idea what to do. I didn't know how to make no money. So I'm like, well, shit, I gotta get some money. I can't just sit here and not eat. So that's what
Mhm.
happens. So and that's why the government has to figure something out, because if people keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed and they're not able to sustain themselves, and they're just a rat on a hamster wheel without being able to have any upward mobility, purchase a home or anything like that, it's
Mhm.
gonna be, the crime is gonna go through the roof. It already is, but it's gonna get worse.
And once again, if anyone else has any questions, leave them in the chat, or feel free to join us. But I will say this: I think this is a problem that it's going to slowly be getting solved when people realize this. I think that, and let's talk to everyone knows my core audience is young adults. Let's talk to the young adults real quick. A lot of young adults are chasing this. I want to say fabricated bullshit of an American dream, where you get your own place, then no one can tell you what to do, and then you can go and play around with the opposite sex all you want, and then before you know it, you're in all this debt to afford the place, and like you have either it's rent or it's mortgage, and your standard of living is so high you no longer have the ability to escape the rat race. The alternative to that is if you could have sat home, and as long as you're on good terms with your parents, or maybe you pay a portion of the rent, maintain that as long as possible until you have a situation where you need to move out. Like, hey, I found this woman. She's an awesome woman. She's pregnant. We're going to have a child. So now it's time for me to move on to the next phase of life, get our own house, that kind of stuff. But you already stacked your bread up to where you can get a huge down payment, or maybe even buy it in cash, as long as you work your skill set up to have some kind of high paying skill. And then you don't start off in a deficit. I think too many young adults, they look down on this. And I think this is starting to turn around for the better, because in other countries, it's actually not like unusual to stay at home with your parents or whatnot for like a considerable amount of time. They have more of a collectivistic culture.
Well, here's my perspective, because our community in particular has a lot of dysfunction to deal with, and a lot of people want to get the fuck out of their parents' house. Like, you got to think, like, look at some of these baby mamas we watch online and how their mentality is. Now, put yourself in. Thank God my mom wasn't like that, but your mom probably wasn't either. But
Right.
look at what these young men are coming up under and having to deal with. You know, I mean, if your mom's twerking on Instagram, would you want to be in that house? So the way I see it is kind of like, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of two-parent homes. So
Mm-hmm.
my thing is, if you want to, as a young man, develop a certain level of autonomy, step one, get you a job that you don't hate. And while doing that, either get a second job if you don't want to go to school, or get a trade, which is the worst option. Trust me. Trust me. That's the worst option.
Yeah. That's unskilled
Or,
labor. You don't want to be in that camp.
yeah. Ooh, this windstorm is crazy. They call it a wind bomb that's going on or something out here in Seattle right now on the West Coast. Step two, or option two, get you a job that you don't completely hate, get you some roommates, and get a high paying skill, such as like construction, plumbing, very high paying skill, um, elevator repair, super high paying skill. Figure out what skills pay high that you could literally just like go to a union or get on at. Do the
Mhm.
research in advance. Oh, is this a high paying, consistent money skill? Go get that skill real quick. It don't take that long, 6 months to 2 years. Go
Especially the
get
blue
blue
collar
skill.
skills. The blue
Yeah,
collar skills, the trades, they don't take that long to get what you need, and then you can start making high five figures, and that's a good launching point.
Yeah, then you're good. You can stack up some bread. You can get you some stocks. You can get you some investments. You can save up, maybe start you a company eventually, doing your trade or doing something else. But you want to have that financial base and be able to just have some roommates, sustain yourself. Do that for a few years until you got that skill under your belt. You got some money stacked up. Maybe buy a house, get your credit together. Boom. You know. Um, and then the third, and what I think is the best option, is get you a job, get you some roommates, and get in college for something that pays well. STEM
No,
or
no liberal arts degrees.
no, STEM, things that are business related and practical. Um,
Science,
Something that,
technology, engineering, math, as
yeah,
Kevin Samuel
or
says.
or doctor, lawyer, health field, something that's in high demand that ain't going nowhere, pays well. There's accelerated programs now. I'm in one right now for marketing. I'm in an accelerated program. There's a lot of things that you can do now to where you can balance your working lifestyle and further your education and your trades and what you can offer to be more valuable within the market, so you're not getting these slave wages and being at the bottom of the totem pole and getting shitted on. You got to really um, do the due diligence, ask people who that are successful, kind of break down the process. If you don't have people directly around you to help you get there and you don't know anyone or see anyone who's on that level, figure it out. Like, go online and figure out who's on that level and break the process down, reverse engineer it, or ask people that that are successful and pick their brain, pick their mind. You know what I'm saying? Or if you have the talent level or the confidence level, you could get into sales and maybe make it pop like that. Sell some cars or something like that. And you might just jump it off from right there. Get you a restaurant job, maybe while you're in school or something like that. You can get some good tips that way. I did that for a while. You'd be all right, in the meantime, in between time. So yeah, that's some practical tips for you guys, man.
Yeah. You really hit home on the roommates part. Um, let's say home isn't an option. Like you gave scenarios where staying at home isn't an option. I think people just assume either it's home or living by yourself. And to be honest, I don't think living by yourself is practical for a lot of people. And you really, I'm not excluding the female listeners. There's a version of this too for y'all too. But I will say this: as a man, you need to find your crew, and you can find a crew by living with roommates or going to find roommates to have your same principle. Yeah, obviously y'all split the rent or whatever, and y'all can really make some stuff pop off since you're not starting off in a deficit. Because if you're staying by yourself and you don't have that high income skill, hell, maybe in some cases, even if you have it, you're starting at a deficit. You don't want to start at a deficit. You want to start at an advantage at the very least.
Yeah, and if you're a young person that's dealing with roommates, I learned this the hard way. You either want to have only their name on the lease in case they're irresponsible and they screw you over, or
Mhm.
both of you have to have skin in the game, or all of you have to have skin in the game and have all your names on the lease. Because if someone breaks that lease and doesn't pay or get you guys evicted or something like that, you're gonna be in a tough situation if you want to eventually get your own place, or you're gonna end up having to cough up the bread for all of you guys' issue, and fix your own credit, pay all of you guys' debt off to fix your own credit. So choose roommates wisely
Yeah.
and make sure everyone has skin in the game, or at least if you're the responsible one, then be like, hey, I ain't gonna have no skin in the game. They're gonna be the ones on the lease, and I'll just join in as a roommate. But choose that wisely. That could set you back financially. And ain't nothing worse than It's few things worse than being out here grinding to pay some shit that you didn't even cause and pay off something that's not even your debt for real. Been there.
Right. Yeah. Valid points, man. Valid points.
hmm But yeah, man, I got to roll, bro. It's good to talk to you. I'll probably chop it up with you in the next couple of days. We talk all the time behind the scenes. I'm about to
Right.
get on this grind, bro. I got to run, man. You guys have a great one. Enjoy the rest of your show, man. I'm gonna holler at you later, bro.
I appreciate you coming on, Sonny Bravo. We're actually
Anytime.
going to be, based on what I'm seeing, it looks like no one has any other questions. So we're actually going to be shutting the show down in a sec. Once again, if anyone has any questions, pop them in the chat, or if you want to hop on the show, the link is in the chat. I'll say closing out unless someone wants to hop on, because I do have some more time, but if no one has any other questions, well, I'll call it quits here. So closing out, I just want to say when it comes to this YouTube thing, there's money in it, but don't think of ad revenue when you think of YouTube. Think of it as every time you get an ad revenue check, that's your advertising budget. And each month or each quarter, let's say each quarter, let's do this like a corporation. So each quarter, you actually want to spend that money on something that is going to get you a return. And even if you're wrong, make sure you do your research on whatever it's going to be. The stereotypical thing that YouTubers do, they take that money, invest it in stocks or real estate, and then this new version of this is investing in crypto. That's up to you if you want to do that. I mean, Bitcoin is probably going to hit over 100,000 before the year ends. That's more speculation, so it's up to you if you want to go that route. But the point is, you're taking that money and you're putting it into something else that will generate a return or something that's going to build an asset. I essentially didn't do anything different than what others did. I just did it in a more creative way. So have a plan for that money. And yeah, with that being said, it looks like we don't have anyone else that's coming on the show or any more questions. So we're going to go ahead and call it quits. Thanks for tuning in to this Financial Freedom Friday. Sonny Bravo actually gave me a good idea. He talked about like the high paying trades of skills. That could actually make a good show in itself. Maybe we'll look at doing that for the next show. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and close it out, everyone. I appreciate everyone that's been watching. If you can give this video or live stream rather a thumbs up, it'd be greatly appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new. We're looking at doing these Financial Freedom Fridays at least bi-weekly, maybe weekly. We'll see how it goes. So I'll catch y'all later, and y'all enjoy the rest of y'all's day.